was, brutally, strangled, to death. And after the elections, Odinga, said, look, the IT department, their systems were hacked, deliberately to cheat on him. So it would appear that, they have some, good evidence to stand upon.
Well, those are quite intricate issues, and when those allegations were raised, we said that look, it is best that they are scientifically proven. It is better that we have judicial pronouncements to back up those claims, and I think he has secured one. But it is beyond the question of the irregularities that went to the election. I think right now what we're looking at is something even much bigger, because this was a procedure that was intended to keep with global best practices. You have the international observers from the United States, you have those from the EU, you have those from the Commonwealth, you have those from the AU. They all came and said that this process was fair and square, that the process was okay, that all the procedures that were adopted, they are all followed through. But the courts have said no. I think that those allegations that were made about the killing of the IT head, yes, of the head of the IT, just days to the election and how the elections went, somehow push has come to shove, and we now have this consequence falling out of it.
Very quickly, Cyril, because of time, what happens next now?
I think that somehow Mr. Odinga has stirred the honestness, not being unfair to him. But I think that, there is more that the international community is taking more than a personal interest in what happens in Kenya. And I think that he's going to of other subterranean interests that are going to build up to say, look, because over the years the quest has been that Odinga's position has not particularly been patronizing or been friendly towards international
yes, Linda, as you can see, hiyo kitu imeamuliwa vizuri kabisa na tumefurahia sana. Kwa majina mimi naitwa Joshua Ogora.
Mimi kwanza nataka kumshukuru ndugu yangu. Alishikwa Kibera akipigania haki yetu. Lakini mimi nasema Kenya we want free and fair. Tukienda round 2, baba akishindwa free and fair tutakubali. Lakini kama wanatambua vifaranga vya kompyuta.
Okay, Haimba, I need to cut you off. In the next 60 days, the court has nullified Uhuru Kenyatta's win. What's going on where you are?
All right, so a lot happening right here at the precincts of the Supreme Court, some of the counsel around giving interviews. But I want to speak to a member of parliament from Jubilee, that's Irungu Kangata, who is currently engaged briefly, but he'll be joining me in just a moment. But he's been insisting and talking about this court being fake, is what he's saying, or rather the judgment as well. But we want him to say and speak these words himself. So Irungu Kangata will be joining us in just a moment. He has just gotten engaged in the last moment or two. But Linda, what a day. Many perhaps did not think it would turn out the way it did. And the judge indicated the constraints of time, making it humanly impossible to deliver a judgment, a full reasoned out judgment. I just want to get the attention of the member of parliament so that he knows we are ready for him, and he's coming now. Let me just speak to him. Thank you so much, sir. Talk to us about your thoughts on this judgment.
This is not a good judgment at all. When the Chief Justice commenced his reading of the judgment, he clearly stated that the court is yet to read all the submissions, all the affidavits. The court is yet to read all the huge and bulky exhibits. So therefore, on what basis did the court reach a determination, whereas the Supreme Court did admit it is yet to read all those documents.
But they say on what they have been able to look at, they are convinced on the 3 areas they ruled that that is the case. So what is, you were saying earlier that these judges or the court is what? Why would you say that?
No, I was saying the judgment is fake. Because, you see, there is an admission on the part of the Chief Justice. He has only read a part of that judgment, a part of all the evidence, a part of the documents filed in court. Why not await reading of all the documents before? You may read part of those documents, you get convinced to think this way, but after reading everything, you get convinced the other way.
But either way, the judgment is there, it cannot be appealed. Shouldn't you then be preparing for the election as ordered? If you won the first one, if you're president as you're holding this one, shouldn't he win again in the next election?
Yes, well, it goes without saying that we shall campaign again, we shall win. By the way, look at the numbers which we got both in the National Assembly, in the Senate, in the Council of Governors. So I foresee a situation where we shall have a huge machinery that is going to campaign for this government to come back. So therefore, I don't foresee us losing, but I would take this opportunity to urge our supporters to remain calm, but ensure once we have a re-election, we come out in huge numbers and vote again for this government. And my final point is this one, which is very crucial. They are saying they are going to force out the IBC commissioners from the government. How do they do that? You have to go to Parliament and cause that IBC commission to be forced out. But now Parliament is now in the hands of the Jubilee government. By the way, I'm now Deputy Chief Whip of Jubilee government in the Senate. I can tell you for a fact that we shall not agree to that. I'm going to whip my members to ensure we protect IBC.
All right, many thanks. Many thanks. We'll continue that conversation later. Irungu Kangata. Linda, I know there's a lot happening all across the country, so I'll hand it back to you.
Sophia Onuna at the Supreme Court speaking to Irungu Kangata, who says this is not a good judgment at all. The judges have not really gone through the tons of documents that they're talking about, so he doesn't understand how exactly they have been able to arrive at the decision that they did. Of course, like I mentioned, there are 2 judges who are dissenting, who had a dissenting opinion. 4 of them, of course, had a common opinion on this particular election and indeed the petition. So if you're just joining us on Kivumbi 2017, this is what you need to know. The Supreme Court of Kenya has today nullified Uhuru Kenyatta's win. Remember, the IEBC declared him as the winner of the August 8th general election. The Supreme Court has right now, a couple of minutes ago, actually nullified that particular win. Chief Justice David Maraga says the presidential election held on August 8th was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution, thereby rendering the results null and void. The 3rd respondent was not validly declared as president-elect, and that declaration is invalid, referring to Uhuru Kenyatta. And they go ahead and say the 1st respondent should organize and conduct fresh elections in 60 days. So in other words, the IEBC has a lot of work on its plate. We have our reporters on the ground from several areas in the country. We have our Rashid Ronald in Kisumu. We have Duncan Haimba, who's keeping an eye on what's happening in the Central Business District. We have Francis Mtalaki and Ontomwa in Mombasa, looking at the reactions from there. Our Elvis Kosgei is in Eldoret. We'll try to get to speak to all of them, just listening to the sentiments of Kenyans as the consequences and the effects of this ruling now sinks in. Those are live pictures, I believe, from Mombasa. Several people on the streets, lots of celebrations as well. We'll try and see if we can speak to our Francis Ontomwa and Francis Mtalaki, who are on the ground. The minute that ruling was given, Kenyans were all over in the streets. Lots of celebration from NASA supporters. In 60 days, Kenyans go back to the ballot. So in essence, campaigns are just about to start hitting the road again as the 2 leaders try to see if they can convince Kenyans to vote either of them as the next president of the Republic of Kenya. However, we've just heard from NASA leaders, that is Raila Odinga, and Kalonzo Musyoka as well. And they made reference to the IEBC, saying it cannot be trusted now to conduct another election. And we are waiting to see how this exactly is going to play out, because Sophia Wanuna has just been speaking to Irungu Kangata, who says they will not allow anyone to touch the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission because they have the majority in both houses. Those are several reactions from Kenyans. We have a split screen on your screens. I believe one is from the CBD here in Nairobi. The other one is from Mombasa. There are lots of supporters running around the streets in celebration of the ruling that has just been given by the 6th-bench Supreme Court of Kenya, with 2 judges dissenting that particular ruling. So we had David Maraga, Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, Smokin Wanjala, and Isaac Lenaola having a common ruling, that basically what we're right now looking at, nullifying Uhuru Kenyatta's win. And then we had dissenting voices from Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u and Jackton Ojwang. So let me have a conversation for 2 minutes, because it's important to get the reactions of people here in studio with me. Before we cross over and speak to our reporters on the ground, it will be interesting to get the sentiments of Kenyans out there. So we have Barack Muluka, who's a political analyst, in studio with me. I have Charles Kanjama, who's a lawyer, and we also have Martin Olo, who's a lawyer as well, and a great political mind. All of them really are. So let me begin with you, Kanjama. What are your thoughts about this ruling now?
First of all, Linda, from the legal perspective, it is a groundbreaking decision.
This is huge.
It's huge. It's never been done in Africa. In fact, even worldwide, it is going to be a landmark decision. I think the rest of the world will take note that we need to reach a stage where, if elections are not done according to the strict standard, the top courts in the land are ready to overturn them. So it's really huge. For us as lawyers, of course, we're excited. It means we'll be getting more cases in the next few days, because the implications of this decision, even on other races, is one that will be explored in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, as you say that, there's a picture on your screen, people doing press-ups with some pictures, and it is just hilarious right now in the CBD in town with supporters, NASA supporters on the streets. Muluka, what are your thoughts?
Kwamba hapa Kisumu punde tu uchaguzi huo ulipo Linda punde tu
Rashid Subiri, hold on.
There's a lot of confusion here.
I know. Hold on. Calm down, Rashid. Calm down. I need you to tell me the reactions of people in Kisumu. It may be a little bit difficult because of the crowd, but try. Okay, we are trying to see if we can speak to Rashid Ronald clearly. We are unable to even have a conversation with him because there's an entire crowd surrounding him, and he's struggling even to hear me in studio. But give me a few minutes. I'll try and see if we can cross over to him again just to get the reactions of residents in Kisumu. That ruling by the Supreme Court, of course, has caught many by surprise. The Supreme Court has nullified Uhuru Kenyatta's win. Let's speak to Carol Nderi, who's in Nyeri. Nderi, what are you hearing from the people on the ground? That is predominantly a Jubilee area. It has a lot of Kenyans who are supporting the Jubilee side. What sort of reactions are you getting on the ground?
Yes, Linda, this is a Jubilee stronghold. Of course, they are disappointed. You can clearly see from the gloom on their faces, but they are telling us that they are determined to go and elect President Uhuru Kenyatta again when the elections or a rerun of the elections will be held. Let us just hear some of their reactions. These are residents of Nyeri County. As I've said, they are disappointed. You can just tell, looking at them, they are not excited about the decision that has been arrived at by the judges of the Supreme Court. Tunataka kusikia kutoka kwenu tafadhali. Tuko live KTN News, Kenya inatazama inakuja. Sasa wanajua tuko hapa katika kaunti ya Nyeri. Maoni yenu ni gani? Jina lako ni nani?
Mimi naitwa James Dongo. Na kama leo tulikuwa tumeamua tulikuwa tumejipanga kama venye mnaona hapa. Na sasa hata ikiwa
hebu tuelezei ni nini mlikuwa mmetengeneza tayari?
Tulikuwa tumetengeneza already. Tulikuwa tumetengeneza cause ushidi ilikuwa yetu. Tuko na Jubilee. Wengine walituambia tutatosheka kwa bahasha, hatuwezi, bahasha yetu iko full. So sisi tunagojea, na bado hata kama ni hizo 60 days zinaambiwa, bado tunasubiri na bado hatutoki Jubilee. Tunazidi kukua, sisi ni wana Jubilee. Yeah.
Sawa. Hebu tusikie kutoka kwa mwingine.
Yes.
Unaitwa nani?
Mimi naitwa Mbao wa Taxi Nyeri. Sasa sisi tunangojea. Sasa tutarudia uchaguzi. Koti kiamua imeamua. Lakini tunaweza omba serikali isukume hii uchaguzi mbele kidogo, kwa maana iko wanafunzi wanatarajia wafanye mtihani, na hii mtihani inakuja pamoja na uchaguzi. Sasa tunaomba serikali iangalie mambo ingine kama hiyo. Lakini tumetocheka tu, lakini tuko tu wale tulichaguana, tuko tu na tuko wengi sasa.
Haya, hebu nisikie kutoka kwa wengine tafadhali.
Nami naitwa Peter Kemaro. Mimi nasema ya kwamba kama Uhuru Kenyatta alikuwa ameshida, atazidi kuchida na tena atachida. Juu ukweli huwezi ficha chini ya mchanga, itachipuka tu mara nyingine tena na utakuwa ushindi mkubwa. Asante.
Okay. Jina langu ni Nahashon Wangombe, and we want to express our sincere bitterness sababu koti yenyewe tuseme IBC yenyewe ilitangaza ushindi wa rais na tulifurahia sana. Kwanza ukizingatia mambo ya counties, ukiangalia ni counties gapi ambazo rais alishukua ushindi, ni dhahiri kwamba tulishukua ushindi. Pili, tuko na wabunge wengi, tuko na maseneta wengi na magavana wengi. Tumekasirika sana na huo uamuzi wa mahakama, na tunajua hiyo siku ikifika tutatokezea zote na ushindi ni wetu. So we know that we are the winners of that previous elections.
Okay, ndio mnasema mtajitokeza kupiga
kwa wingi kabisa. Hata ikawa ni kesho. We are ready for that. Yes.
Jina langu ni Joseph Getuko. Sikufurahishwa na uamuzi wa koti, na hiyo kitu inaonekana ni kama NASA walikuwa wanajua judgment. Juu Raila hajawahi ongea na media, aliingia kama anaongea na media. Orego alikuwa anaongea na media pia.
Haya, na sawa. Sasa kwa sababu wamesema mtaenda kupiga kura tena, hapa Nyeri mnasemaje?
Kula tutaenda kupiga. Ni sisi tulikuwa tumechagua Uhuru, na bado tutajitokeza kwa huo wiki tulikuwa tumejitokeza nao.
Sawa. Naona kuna kijana mmoja hapa amechemka kabisa.
Mimi naitwa Daniel Kamau. Hatujafurahishwa na maoni. Hiyo maoni ya kotini hatujafurahishwa nayo. Kama ni election tutarudia, ina shida.
Mkate ni wa nini nauliza?
Mkate huu tunaonyeshana hakuna serikali ya nusu mkate.
Haya, sawa. Sasa wamesema mtapiga kura tena kama Wakenya, unasemaje?
Mimi kama ni kurudiwa, tumesema itarudiwa. Tutajitokeza kwa wingi, tumrudishe mwenye tunataka, na ni Uhuru.
Mwanadada, hebu tusikie kutoka kwa mwanadada. Tafadhali simama hapa ili wakutazame. Unaitwa nani?
Mimi naitwa Njeri.
Njeri.
Yes. Tumesema tumekasirika sana because of that election. That is wastage of time. Actually we have the majority in the bunge, but tutarudi tu Uhuru ndani na tano tena. Tunarudia na tutatokelezea.
Dada mwingine, hebu tusikie kutoka kwako. Unaitwa nani?
Mimi naitwa John.
Sorry?
Mimi naitwa John. Mimi ni mkaaji wa Nyeri. Kile ningesema Maraga amefanya vibaya sana kwa sababu kwa hii nchi yetu ya Kenya tuko na amani na tungetaka amani. Akuongea mambo ambayo inafaa, ameongea mambo ambayo si ya ukweli. But tunasema tutarudi kwa debe na tutachagua Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, tutaamuka asubuhi sisi wenyewe kwa wenyewe ndio tutajitokeleza.
Haya, sawa sawa. Tutaongea baadaye. Muda umekwisha wetu. Muda wetu umeisha. Tutazungumza baadaye. Some of the views from the residents of Nyeri saying they are ready to vote again, believing that they will still or rather they will get to exercise their democratic right again and elect Uhuru Kenyatta as president. We'll be getting back to you later.
Yes.
We are keeping tabs for you, ready to bring you up to speed on what is transpiring here. Back to you.
Derry, I'll cross over to you again as we continue with this broadcast. Carol Derry in Nyeri for us, sampling the reactions of Kenyans with that Supreme Court ruling that has now nullified Uhuru Kenyatta's win. This is Kivumbi 2017. We're on the trail of the Supreme Court and that ruling that has just been given under an hour ago. So allow me to release our viewers on KTN Home so that you can get to understand what else is happening in the country. The Supreme Court ruling and the reactions from all over the country. Let me now speak to Timothy Otieno, my colleague who's in Mathare. Timothy, can you hear me?
Well, yes, Linda, I can hear you. And the situation in Mathare Estate in Nairobi is similarly replicated in many towns across this particular country following celebrations after the Supreme Court nullified the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Remember, this is the estate in which immediately after the IEBC announced the presidential results, sporadic protests began. And you can remember that sad incident where a 10-year-old girl was shot and unfortunately killed as a result of those protests. It brought a lot of international as well as local concern in regards to the security situation. And today it's a complete turnaround of that mood, a lot of celebratory moods. It was a very euphoric moment a few minutes ago. It has since died down. Let's see if I can be able to talk to a few of the residents just to give us the thought process on how they feel. I'm joined by one gentleman here who's dressed in a Chelsea shirt. Ongea na sisi labda maoni yako kuhusiana na uamuzi wa mahakama makuu.
Hii mahakama imefanya poa, kitu tunangoja tu sasa tuingie kwa debe. Picha mbili karatasi moja, kwa hiyo picha tu. Lakini vindu vichenja tuko sawa.
Labda tujaribu tuongee na mama hapa kidogo. Asante sana mama kwa kuongea na KTN News. Labda kwa maoni yako umefurahia uamuzi wa koti mahakama makuu?
Mimi nimependa sana kufurahia mambo ya Maraga. Amefanya kitu ya maana na upendo na Maraga ni tibi. Mnaendelea hivyo. Tunaona tunaenda kupata ushindi wa hii maneno. Tunasema ni asante.
Upinzani umesema kwamba, labda nikuulize wewe mwenzangu, upinzani umesema kwamba hawaamini kwamba IEBC, tume ya uchaguzi nchini, inaweza kuhakikisha kwamba uchaguzi ujao ambao unakuja baada ya siku kama 60 hivi unaweza kufanya kazi. Labda unakubaliana nao hii IEBC tume ambayo tunayo sasa hizi? Do you agree hiyo ndio tupeleke katika elections zingine ama wabadilishe hao tume?
Okay, mimi kwa maoni yangu ningependa tubadilishe tume ya IEBC kwa maana hatuiamini. Mara ya kwanza waliweza kutuangusha kwa kura zetu wakazificha ambapo Uhuru Kenyatta hapo amepita, lakini Maraga tunampongeza sana kwa kazi ambayo amefanya uamuzi Afrika mzima hatujaipata hivi. Na tena hata kama tungemfikia sisi kama wananasa tungemuinua juu kwa sababu tunataka rais mpya katika Kenya na mabadiliko katika nchi yetu. Asante.
Moja wa mwisho tu, let's just talk to this madam over here. Your names and your reactions to the ruling.
Rita, naitwa Rita. Maraga amefanya kitu ya maana na Raila ni TB. Hatuwezi pinga. Raila nasa Uhuru mara hiyo. Na tuogopi, sisi ni Wajaluo na tulipiga kura na bado tutapiga. Raila TB tutawanasa. Hatuogopi. Maraga TB mata nitamlipa. Ndio, juu amefanya kazi ya Raila. Ndio,
Thank you so much, Linda. We'll try and see if you can just walk around a bit before I hand it back to you. As you can see, people are out on the streets. And the crowd here is a bit hard to control, but you can imagine this is an area that was vastly affected after the announcement of President Uhuru Kenyatta as being duly elected a few weeks ago, and the euphoria perhaps can be explained as a result of the Supreme Court overturning that. Some of the businesses that had been opened in this particular area, some of them have been shut down, others continue to remain open. Many people have flocked this particular street, this particular area, just in celebration of what they believe is a ruling that perhaps may define or change the way elections and particularly presidential elections are held in this particular country, Linda.
Yeah, Timothy, trust me, this a lot of people did not see this coming. I'll come back to you again, Timothy. This coverage has just begun and we are not ending anytime soon. Let me bring in my colleague, Mashirima Kapombe, who's in the Central Business District. Mashirima, can you hear me? Mashirima, wanisikia?
I can hear you. It's a bit noisy here. It seems like there's a party in the CBD where residents from even Kibra have reached town to be able to express their satisfaction, and they're singing praises to Chief Justice David Maraga over the ruling that they made about 1 hour ago. Let me just speak to some of them over what they feel right now. Wacha tuanze na wewe, unajisikiaje saizi?
Mimi nasikia furaha sana kwa sababu Maraga ametenda uwaki kwa hii Kenya na Mungu aendelee kumpatia uwaki.
Na kuna mwingine hapa, tuambie maoni yako, unahisi vipi vile ambavyo ama yale maamuzi ambayo yametolewa na mahakama ya juu?
Maraga amedeclare kuna justice Kenya. Wali ilikuwa na focus kwa hii Supreme Court, lakini amewaprove wrong, kuna justice Kenya. Yes.
Na kuna Wakenya ambao wamekuwa wakisema kuwa Wakenya wamechoka na hawatarudi kwenda kwa debe katika siku 60 zijazo.
Hatujachoka.
Okay, you know, my name is Henry, and I think why the citizenship had given up in the justice system of Kenya is because anytime we had disputes of this nature, the result was the same result. So it's like a precedent that had been set, a wrong precedent, of course. So now we feel like there is a new down. As we say, as our slogan goes, "Bindu bichenjanga." We can see there's a new down, and Maraga has just justified with his colleagues. They have justified that justice can be served, actually. That you can go to the court of law, present your evidence, and you'll be heard, and justice will be served to you. Yes. That's why you feel that there's this all ecstatic mood behind us, and people are happy about the outcome.
I'm very happy about this country, that we have changed in terms of the judicial system, all the social injustices committed by our leaders. Leo tumefurahia, tumeona kilio ya msando. Kwa hivyo tunasema NASA TB, Raila is our president. Wapende wasipende, tunaenda State House leo.
Today I can say this is a faithful judgment. It will go down to history when Kenyans got a fair judgment. And the God whom we serve had our cry, the cry of Kenyans, that we are going to get a change. Tialala, Canaan is real, and we are going there.
Maraga is our Lord. Only that I can say. Maraga is our Lord. Yes.
Mimi naweza sema afadhali Maraga venye amesema ni sawa, sababu kila mtu akona haki sasa. Hakuna mwenye atafariki sababu ya hii maneno. Watu wataenda tena kwa re-election. Kila mtu atakuwa anaridhika na ile election inakuja. Si hii ambapo wamefanya ukurubati hii maneno mingi.
Okay.
Na Mungu abariki.
Linda, kama unavyoona kidogo watu wako na raha sana, kelele ziko nyingi, kila mtu ambaye tumeweza kuongea naye anahisi kuwa ule uamuzi ambao umefanywa na mahakama ya juu umekuwa sawa. Samahani kuwa nimebadilisha lugha kidogo, nimeweza.
Hamna shida Mashirima.
Lugha kidogo imenipotea ya Kiingereza, kwa hivyo nitakurudishia wewe hapo studio.
Hamna shida Mashirima, usiwe na shaka. Tutakuelewa, tunaelewa lugha zote mbili, Kiingereza na Kiswahili. Nashukuru dadangu. We'll cross over to you in a few minutes again to get to understand what exactly is happening in the CBD. I would love for you to paint for me a picture exactly of what's going on in the CBD. I know you're with Duncan Haemba, who's also patrolling the streets. We'll cross over to both of you again. Right now, let me bring in my colleague Sharon Momanyi, who's in Kibera. Sharon, there's lots of activity and lots of celebrations in Kibera. What can you tell us?
Linda, as you can hear, if you can, the celebrations here is palpable. A lot of chants ranting the air. You can see a huge crowd has gathered here in Kibera, which we know to be a NASA stronghold. This is a big victory. The ruling is seen as a big victory by the residents here. We were talking to them. Some of the chants that were ranting the air as soon as Chief Justice Maraga made that ruling. We had chants of Uhuru must go, Raila Tosha, Raila Tibim, and even Orengo Tibim. And so a very excited, residents here in Kibera. And I want us to just speak to some of them to just get, their reaction to this. It's almost as though it's the final ruling, really, but they're really happy about this. So I just want to speak to a few of them to get some of their views. And maybe tuambie maoni yenu.
Mimi nasema hiyo kitu mara mimi sana. Tulikuwa tunaogopa kufa. Lakini kitu tunaomba ndio mchezo. Raila atuambie tuache.
You can see the pictures on the screen. A huge crowd, a mammoth crowd has come to the streets of Kibera. It's all celebrations here. Maybe I'll just let you, have a look and have a listen at what's happening in Kibera.
Sharon. All right, Sharon, just keep the pictures on the screen for me because it would be
happening. It's almost hard to communicate right now because of all the excitement that is in the air here in Kibera. But the sentiment that we are hearing from them is they feel like justice has been served. Most of them were very unhappy with the announcement that was initially made. So maybe what I'll do is just let you have a look at the pictures just to paint a picture of how Kibera is right now. If my camera out here I can just show you, we have vehicles that are, also on the streets making noise. We have branches, people singing, blowing vuvuzelas. That is just the mood here in Kibera at the moment.
Those are live pictures from Kibera here in Nairobi. Sharon Momanyi is there. She can hardly communicate. There's so much noise. There's lots of celebrations there. The minute this ruling was given, everyone went out to the streets, and it's even impossible. It's impossible, really, to even have a conversation with anyone there. So we have split screens for you. We have one from Mathare. We have one from Kibera. Timothy Otieno is in Mathare. Sharon Momanyi is in Kibera. We have Rashid Ronald in Kisumu. And even he was unable to even speak to us because of the celebrations that were going on down there. We have Carol Nderi, who's in Nyeri. The residents there are not very enthusiastic, as the ones you can see on your screen. And then we have Francis Ontomwa and Francis Mtalaki as well, who are in Mombasa for us. Duncan Haemba is strolling the streets of Nairobi just to give you a picture of how the CBD is and is working alongside Mashirima Kapombe, who also couldn't say much. But those are live pictures coming to you from Kibera and Mathare following the reaction of the Supreme Court ruling. Essentially, it's back to the ballot for Kenya. The Supreme Court has nullified Uhuru Kenyatta's win. Remember, IEBC declared him the winner in the August 8th general election, and essentially he was the president-elect. That has now been nullified by the Supreme Court. This is the big story we are following on for you. And believe me, this is not just a big story in Kenya. It's a big story in the continent. It's a big story on the international arena as well. A lot of people did not see this coming at all. So as we keep the pictures on the screen for you from Kibera and Mathare, allow me to get the sentiments of my panelists in studio. So you have live pictures from Mathare, you have live pictures from Kibera that are currently on your screen. Like I mentioned, this coverage has just begun. We're going to be here for a very long time. We'll get you reactions from all over the country. We'll try to interpret this for you legally so that you can understand what exactly is going to happen in the country in the next 60 days and what that ruling essentially implies. In studio, I have with me to my immediate right, I have Martin Olo, who's a lawyer and a political mind as well. Right next to him, we have Charles Kanjama, who's also a lawyer. And then we have Barack Muluka, who's a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you for staying with me. We have been here with you, and we watched that ruling being given by the Supreme Court. So essentially, Kanjama, let me begin with you. So in 60 days, Kenyans go back to the ballot. Is it going to be just between the two candidates, Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, or are we going to do this all over again?
Linda, what happens is that the court has nullified the election that was held on 8th of August. So
what does that mean?
We are not going to a runoff. We are having the primary election again. The candidates who are successfully nominated will take part in the fresh election. So the 8 presidential candidates we had on 8th of August will be on the ballot paper, and Kenyans will vote their choice once again. We are basically redoing what we did on 8th of August.
Just the presidential one?
Just the presidential one, although my expectation is that many lawyers, including myself, will be filing election petitions in regard to various other electoral contests at the gubernatorial, senatorial, National Assembly, and ward level. Because if the decision of the court is that the election was null and void because of procedural matters or matters touching on inadequate electoral infrastructure and failure to comply with the Constitution, then that finding could also affect potentially numerous other elections that are valid but might be declared invalid by the High Court, the Magistrates' Courts, and the Court of Appeal eventually. Essentially, we're going to look at a lot of petitions from here on. I think this is a signal for various people who are candidates in the just concluded general elections and who were declared as having lost to file election petitions with an expectation that the Supreme Court ruling will be applied to the other races.
Look, this is huge, not just for Kenya, not just for the continent, for the entire world in terms of democracy. What does this speak, what does this say to you?
Indeed, very many things. In fact, if I may just develop the point that Charles was touching on a little earlier, that this being a primary election, we are probably very far from seeing the end. Remember that not being a rerun, there must emerge a clear winner when we go back to the ballots. If there's no clear winner with 50% plus 1,
50 plus 1.
Yes, then it would mean that we could still have another election after that, a rerun. So it's going to be very important that when we get there, there is a very clear winner. This election also points out to the precipitate nature of some of the observations that are usually made, especially by the international community and observers. I think there's always a need, if we take any lessons from this, to state very clearly that we haven't really gotten to the end of the process and that our observation up to the point that the polling stations have been closed and vote counting has begun indicates that the elections have been free, fair, and credible. But if you go beyond that without interrogating some of the details and you start telling people to accept and move on,
yeah, I remember.
We must start asking ourselves, you are telling people to move on from what? Then the flip side is also that it demonstrates the folly of saying that we will not go to court.
Yeah, because I remember Raila Odinga was very upset with the observers. They said they were being pushed to accept the results by the international community and some of the observers, of course, who came in and gave this whole thing a clean bill of health. Martin, I'm going to speak to you in a few minutes, but let me speak to my colleague Rashid Ronald, who is in Kisumu. Rashid, let's try again. Can you hear me now? I'm hoping you've been able to move away from the crowd.
Yeah, thank you very much, Linda. At least now I can hear you. Sorry, I could not be able to.
What happened to you initially? What was going on?
Because, especially after the announcement of that major announcement by Maraga, people stormed the streets of Kisumu. Actually, people were dancing, celebrating here and there. And of course, you can see that right now the police are trying to provide security. Now it's not about beating those people. It's just providing security. You can see there, quite very interesting. And of course, that is the case all over the streets of Kisumu and the estates of Kisumu. You go to Kondele, you go to Nyamasaria, name them. People are just celebrating, and of course, interesting, very interesting. That's what is happening here in Kisumu. That's what has been happening in Kisumu. And I'm sure that is what we shall continue witnessing as the time goes. Linda. Hey.
Clearly, Rashid cannot hear me. Okay, so clearly Rashid cannot hear me. That crowd has managed to find him out, pick him out where he is. Probably next time he'll have to get on top of some very tall building for him to be able to talk about what's happening in Kisumu. It's basically impossible right now to do a link with Rashid Ronald from Kisumu. There's a whole crowd around him just celebrating. And it's interesting, really, the picture that we've seen from Kisumu. Rashid says they have police now giving security, protection to some of the people celebrating on the streets of Kisumu. So that has been Kisumu. Let's now take a look at what's happening in Dandora. Our Lofty Matambo is there for us. Lofty.
Wadi ya Dandora. Nakumbuka mtazamaji, Dandora imegawanyika katika maeneo matano, na kama unavyohisi hao ni baadhi ya wakazi wa Dandora ambao wanashangilia na hizo ni ni baadhi ya wakazi wa Dandora ambao wanashangilia, na vile vile kunao ambao wametulia, lakini hapa ni Dandora Phase 5 wakiwa wanashangilia kwa ajili ya uamuzi ambao umetolewa na mahakama ya juu kuhusiana na kurejelewa kwa kura za urais. Naam.
Maraga sante.
Baba lazima aende. Lazima baba aende. Lazima State House. Hatutabaki nyuma.
Maraga work, and we appreciate Maraga. He has
Jina lako itwa nani babu?
Mimi naitwa Kevin Odhiambo kaka.
Mbona unasherehekea hivi? Najua Dandora ni mtambo umechanganyika pande zote za kisiasa, na kwa nini wewe umeamua upande wa kushangilia katika eneo hili la Dandora?
First of all, I'm proud as a Kenyan because I expressed my rule of law, and after it The court upheld the ruling, and he has nullified Uhuru Kenyatta to be not to be declared as a winner. So it's very fair. Many people knew that Uhuru is going to be the president of Kenya, but according to the votes, we did not expect such thing.
Asante.
Thank you.
Asante sana, bila shaka huyo ni mmoja wa wale wanaoshangilia hapa Dandora. Wacha tusikie kwa binti pia, mwanadada. Jina lako unaitwa nani?
Mimi naitwa Magi, ni mkazi wa hapa.
Waitwa?
Magi.
Magi nani?
Magi Orenyo.
Na Magi, je, wewe unashangilia, na je, iwapo hushangilii uko tayari kurudi debeni kuweza kupiga tena kura za urais?
Mimi niko tayari sana. Na nashukuru sana koti, manake imeleta amani. Nashukuru.
Naam. Kwa hivyo yako ni shukrani kwa koti.
Nashukuru sana.
Asante sana Magi. Pengine tuchukue bwana wa mwisho hapa, utazungumza. Asante. Naam, tuchukue maoni ya mwisho. Jina lako?
Naitwa Justin Osiemo. Yes.
Maoni yako ni yapi kutokana na uamuzi wa mahakama ya juu?
Ni kuonyesha ya kwamba ukiwa wewe unamuogopa Mungu na uko mahali ulichukua Biblia ukaapa utafanya haki na ukweli, Maraga amefanya kitu cha maana, na sisi wengine tufuate hivyo.
Na jina lako?
Naitwa Justin Osiemo kutoka Nyamira.
Asante sana. Na mtazamaji, bila shaka ndo hayo maoni mchanganyiko. Hata hivyo, angalia shughuli zinaendelea huko wengine kama kawaida. Hili ni gari ambalo linajaza abiria matupu kuelekea jijini Nairobi, na kama nilivyokutaarifu ni kwamba eneo la Dandora limegawanyika katika sehemu 5: Dandora phase 1, phase 2 hadi phase 5. Hapa tulipo ni katikati ya phase 4 na phase 5, na katika haya maeneo utapata uungwaji mkono wa Uhuru Kenyatta na vile vile Raila Odinga umegawanyika pande mbili. Kwa hivyo hapo kuna wale ambao wanashangilia na wengine wanasema shughuli zetu zitaendelea kama kawaida, na wale ambao wana maoni mseto kwamba hawako tayari, wengine wanasema wako tayari kurudi debeni na kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba tena haki zao za kikatiba zipo. Pengine tusikie kwa mwingine hapa anasemaje. Jina lako aitwa nani?
Mimi naitwa Francis Washira.
Nitakushikia mikrofoni. Bwana Washira, unatoka Dandora ya upande gani?
Phase 5.
Maoni yako ni yapi kutokana na uamuzi wa mahakama ya juu?
Maoni yangu ni sisi ndio tulichaguana na sisi pia ndio tunarudi kwa debe. Kwa hivyo kama Uhuru alishinda, hata tukirudi kwa debe atashinda. Na hiyo ndio maoni yangu.
Asante sana. Je, unaona wana Dandora wako tayari? Manake wengine wanasema walikuwa tayari washakubali hali, wamerudi makazini, mabiasharani kwao. Je, watakuwa na muda tena kurudi debeni?
Lazima hata wanasema ni lazima warudi kwa debe. Vile walifanya kipulisho hawajapoteza. Kwa hivyo ni lazima wafanye nini? Warudi kwa debe.
Asante sana. Mtazamaji, kama unavyoona pia hali ya usalama yanaimarishwa. Hilo ni gari la maafisa wa kudumisha usalama, maafisa wa polisi ambao wanapiga doria, na sauti za wakazi ni kwamba tuko sawa, hatuna wasiwasi. Wanasema wako sawa, na kweli wanatangamana mirengo yote miwili hapa katika wadi ya Dandora, eneo bunge la Embakasi Kaskazini. Kwa hivyo tutakuwa tunaendelea kuangalia yanayoendelea na tuweze kukupasha, lakini kwa sasa hamna la kuripoti kwamba kuna mshike kama mushkili wowote. Hali iko shwari, wanaoimba wanaimba, wanaoshangilia wanashangilia, wanaogaragara barabarani wanagaragara, na wanaosema kwamba hawajafurahia uamuzi huu bado wamemakinika na wanasema debe ndo uamuzi wao. Wanasema wako tayari kurudi debeni, alafu itaamuliwa kama atakayeshinda ni yupi mara hii ya pili. Kumbuka huu ni uamuzi wa kwanza zaidi barani Afrika wa mahakama ya juu kuweza kufutilia mbali uchaguzi wa urais. Kwa hivyo Kenya kwa mara nyingine inaandikisha historia, na vile vile wana Dandora wako unyo kufuatilia uandikishaji wa historia hiyo. Kutoka kwangu Lofti Matambo kutoka eneo la Dandora, endelea kuzuia hapa ili tukuletee mengi zaidi yanayochipuka katika eneo bunge hili la Embakasi Kaskazini. Kwako studioni.
Haya, mwanahabari mwenzangu Lofti Matambo katika mtaa wa Dandora anasema hamna mshike katika mtaa huo. Sina uhakika maana ya neno garagara, nitamuuliza akifika ofisini, lakini anaangalia hisia mbalimbali za wakaaji wa mtaa wa Dandora, wafuasi wa NASA pamoja na Jubilee. Lofty Matambo keeping an eye on what's happening in Dandora for us. He says there isn't much happening, but there's a very interesting picture that we've just seen coming out of Dandora, similar to what happened in Kisumu. So you have security officials driving around Dandora, and they're actually waving at each other with supporters, and it's a good scene. It's a good scenario to see coming from Dandora and Kisumu. So you're watching Kivumbi 2017. Allow me to take a short break for now. When we come back, we'll engage the panelists in studio so that we can help you to understand what exactly does this ruling mean? Where does this leave Kenya? What kind of processes can we expect from now henceforth? And what essentially will be that threshold for winning, even as Kenya goes back to the election in 60 days? The picture on your screen, even as I take this break, is a split of what we are currently seeing in Mathare here in Nairobi.
This is KTN News.